So when it comes to a new garden, even an established garden, and you happen to move in, you happen to get some neighbors that are not so cool. Come on, we can all speak the truth. What are your options? Well, there's palisade fencing, there's building of walls, there's trellis work. And let me tell you, all of that requires a large amount of money, as in the input. And certainly for me, one of the best options in such a case, whether it be a large or a small garden, would be hedging. Remember, from the smallest garden to create rooms, hedges do the job. Whether your hedge only gets that big or whether it's going to be a towering 2 meter, there are options. So let's talk about what is available. Guys, when you walk into your local garden centre, what are we faced with? There's a myriad of plants. I'm going to choose, and I have a selection here, of 5 of probably the best. Why? Because they can all withstand extreme conditions. And there will be a plant for you, no matter where you live in this beautiful country of ours. So let's start off with this guy. This is Viburnum odoratissimum, a plant that hails originally from Asia. And let me tell you, it probably is one of the toughest, can withstand any soil conditions. So whether it's loamy, whether it's clay, whether it's sandy, this guy will live. It's a big, big plant. If you leave this plant unchecked, it will get up to 20 meters in height. And if you prune it properly, it can actually form a lovely small garden tree. It gets nice and wide, at least 2 meters in width. So you're going to space them 1.8 meters apart. You can even push it a bit further. The viburnum is cold tolerant, which is very, very important. Most importantly, it's grown for this evergreen habit, large leaves, takes very, very well to pruning and clipping. And of course, that height is what we want. Of course, the question that everybody asks me, how fast does it grow? The good news is this guy grows 800. So just beyond a meter per year. It's a good one, especially if you don't like the neighbors. Now here's a guy that takes me back in childhood. This is the Syzygium Peniculatum, also known as Eugenia. What I do like about the Syzygium is that it can withstand quite boggy conditions. It can also grow very happily in semi-shade. Okay, now think about that narrow walkway. What can you put between you and the neighbor? A meter, not much space. This guy does the job because its natural habitat is narrow and tall. So in terms of pruning, can stay as a little bitty like this in terms of pruning, or you can let it get to its full height, which is approximately 2 meters. When planted young, do protect it against frost if you do drop to any temperatures just near the zeros. So rather keep it near the house, or in winter, make sure that you cover it up with some frost guard. All right, folks, so next up is this guy, pretty much lesser known. This is called a Ligustrum, and this is Texorum. Now, before you jump off your couch and start saying, but that's an alien invasive, it's not. Guys, this is the Chinese privet, not the Japanese privet. The Japanese privet is the one that's on the alien invasive list that we are not allowed to plant. This is a lesser known variety, frost hardy, incredibly tough, beautiful plumes of white flowers, early spring into the summer months, really good as shaping and pretty tough as well. So that is Ligustrum Texorum. Of course, we all know this guy, Duranta, Sheena's gold, from small to large. Do keep it covered if your temperatures drop below 0. Remember, I am always asked, Tanya, the leaves of my Duranta are turning black. Okay, that's normally a sign that it is very stressed and it needs water. So do keep them well watered. And initially, if you are planting in an area where your temperatures do drop quite low, please do protect the young plants. But as a fast-growing, really tough, from the coast right up into Gauteng, it really does do the job. Now, this baby over here, which is Fray Linear. Folks, this is indigenous. I truly love the Fray Linear. Why? Because it flowers all year round, on and off, on and off. You're going to get these lovely tubular flowers that range from white to almost a pale, pale blue. So because it's got these lovely flowers, pollinators, bees, butterflies, they really enjoy it. So it's got a smaller leaf. Smaller leaves, I really do prefer for more compact, controlled hedging. In other words, in areas that are quite high visual areas, because the smaller the leaf, the better it is for clipping. Also quite narrow and upright, and the great thing about Fray Linear is that it can grow in semi-shade or in full sun. From a frost perspective, not all that good, so do protect it, especially if we do drop into those lower temperatures. But man, from surprises, flowering, evergreen, quite narrow, I think it's a real winner. Now that you've decided on a plant to suit your hedging needs, knowing how to maintain it is a must. Well, we all want a beautifully neat hedge. And when they get out of hand and we don't maintain them often enough, then things can go seriously wrong. I'm going to share with you my 5 top tips for keeping your hedges in the best shape. Let's start off with number 1. Use the right equipment. Now, you could either use an electric hedge trimmer. You could, of course, use the good old-fashioned shears where the manual work comes in, or you could use one of these gorgeous guys, which is a lithium-ion battery-operated hedge trimmer. Whatever you're going to use, just make sure that your equipment is kept in good nick. Next point, never, ever, ever, ever remove too much of the foliage at once. Rather more frequent than infrequent. And the reason for this is because as soon as we remove too much foliage, well, yep, underneath here, because it's been trained as a hedge, inside here there's no light, so you've got no foliage. Third point, even if you think you're Edward Scissorhands, always use some guards. Really important. I know it sounds a bit anal, but folks, there can be nothing worse than a crinkle cut wavy hedge, one that goes a bit narrow and then opens up. Plus, what ends up happening is that you end up with bald patches around the base because of the angle that we have trimmed. Remembering that your line is now going to be the guard at which you only want to be removing very small bits of the foliage at any given time. When choosing a trimmer, look for something like this that has ergonomically designed handles. It allows you to tackle meters of hedging without getting tired. An interchangeable lithium-ion battery means you can cut for up to 135 minutes, or around 450 square meters of hedging. Still on tip 3, when you've got the top nice and plumb level, remove your line to the side. And here, this is most important, particularly for the shape, the angle of your vertical. And folks, this is where we can go wrong. Ideally, a hedge should be narrower at the top and broader at the base, because that then allows the light to be able to get through, which is why it's important for this that's over here, so that when we are pruning, which is an instinctual thing, we automatically tend to go in instead of going out. So your top must be narrower than the base of your hedge. The blades are durable and robust, with a teeth opening of 20 millimeters, allowing for clean, fast cuts. When done, simply pop it back into the charger, ready for your next round of trimming. My 4th tip for amazing hedges is always to mulch. Now folks, we are blessed that we've got some trees around here. We simply just take the leaves and put them into the garden bed, and we make sure, that they're underneath here too, where the root zone is. And what does it do? Well, it improves the humic content, plus it traps the moisture in here, and the more leaves, the better that you can get in here. And my 5th tip is feeding. Folks, the more you feed, the quicker it grows. Feed with a high nitrogen fertilizer, especially if it's a foliage hedge. If you are dealing with a hedge which you would like to get flowers, then you could certainly use a 315 or any organic base, which is similar in that ratio. So a high nitrogen for good growth, and then of course lots of water. Feeding should be every 6 to 8 weeks to get that guy firing on all cylinders.